John Candy died of a massive heart attack at just 43 years old, leaving behind a wife and 2 young children. And in this video, we'll look at the 7 habits Candy had that many people today also have that may have contributed to his fatal heart attack. John was one of comedy's brightest stars, known for his roles in films like Uncle Buck and Planes, Trains and Automobiles. He was adored by his co-stars and always had time to talk to fans, even doing improv scenes with them on the street. Although his struggles with food were well known, his death at such a young age came as a shock, and can serve as a warning for all of us about how different factors add up, putting stress on the heart and pushing us closer to the danger zone. John had 7 major habits that many people have today, some of which our bodies can cope with in moderation, but in excess they can trigger heart attacks. So today we're looking at 7 alarming habits linked to John Candy's heart attack, and how they can serve as a warning for us all. Remember to click the thumbs up and subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest videos. First, John was no stranger to stress. Despite his outwardly jovial appearance, he endured severe panic and anxiety attacks, encapsulated by the aptly titled biography, Laughing on the Outside. At a physiological level, stress can have a profound impact on the heart. When we experience stress, our hormones fluctuate wildly, initiating the fight or flight response that raises heart rate and blood pressure. Mechanisms once essential for survival, but detrimental when constantly running. Elevated cortisol levels increase the likelihood of artery damage, medically known as atherosclerosis, restricting blood flow and increasing the risk of heart attack. Stress also affects blood clotting, which in chronic states can cause dangerous clots that block arteries. But more than the physiological impacts of stress, it's a primary driver of harmful behavior, creating cycles which are notoriously hard to break. For Candy, he was uncomfortable seeing himself on screen and refused to watch his own movies, explaining that when he did watch his work, he became excessively critical of himself. His stress was magnified when he lost millions of dollars to a con artist, on top of recurring issues with self-doubt and worry. Tragically for John, his anxiety triggered various forms of excessive behavior. Most notably, he was famous for turning to food for comfort, creating a destructive cycle that can resonate with anyone who juggles personal and professional pressures. Likewise, many people turn to alcohol to self-medicate, and John Candy was no exception. Alcohol was a significant presence in Candy's life, especially after his move from Toronto with its restaurant-only alcohol service, to the nightlife of Chicago, where bars welcomed patrons until the early hours. This was a major environmental shift, and became a substantial part of his life, to the extent that he sought help at a center in Santa Monica. The impact of alcohol on the body is complex and multifaceted. Excessive alcohol damages the liver, heart, and arteries. The liver, burdened with metabolizing alcohol, can become fatty and inflamed, leading to cirrhosis. The heart is similarly vulnerable. Excess alcohol leads to high blood pressure, irregular heartbeats, and a weakened heart muscle, known as alcoholic cardiomyopathy. Over time, this hardens arteries, damages them, and as a result leads to plaque buildup or blocked arteries, ultimately creating a perfect storm for increased risk of heart attacks and stroke. And of course, both alcohol and stress can disrupt sleep, accelerating inflammation and hormone imbalances, and making destructive behavior cycles even harder to break out of. Sadly, John Candy's journey reflects a story common to many people. The pressures of life and the allure of alcohol as a quick fix can lead down to a path of dependency that is difficult to escape. Much like his alcohol issues, Candy also struggled with cocaine, which can likewise cause sudden, severe spikes in blood pressure and heart rate, leading to significant strain on the cardiovascular system. And yes, he also smoked cigarettes. Cigarette smoke is laden with a cocktail of chemicals that wreak havoc on the cardiovascular system. Nicotine tightens blood vessels and raises blood pressure, forcing the heart to work harder. Carbon monoxide from smoke hampers the blood's ability to carry oxygen, exacerbating the heart's workload. But beyond these effects, smoking inflicts damage at a molecular level on cholesterol. Cholesterol, a necessary component for building cell membranes and producing hormones, becomes a silent killer when damaged by oxidative stress. Unlike its undamaged counterpart, oxidized LDL is aggressively inflammatory and damages cells that line the arteries, again significantly increasing the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Other things damage cholesterol too. Many foods can have a similar effect on cholesterol, and sugar-laden treats are some of the worst. Like many of us, John Candy struggled with chocolate cravings, to the point where his health advisors searched his trailer for stashed sweets. Eating too much sugar can lead to a host of issues that go beyond just weight gain. It can mess with the body's proteins and fats in a way that ages you faster and sets you up for serious problems like diabetes and heart disease. Plus, sugar causes glycation, turning the usually harmless cholesterol into toxic cholesterol. Similarly, John was a regular at diners and fast food joints, where the allure of quick, tasty meals often comes with a serious cost to health. The problem with fast food isn't just the poor quality meats which are loaded with unhealthy fats and additives, but also the cooking methods and ingredients used, particularly toxic vegetable oils. These vegetable oils, like soybean oil, are unstable. When used in the high-temperature cooking, they oxidize, producing reactive oxygen species, molecules that rampage the body, damaging DNA and proteins, causing inflammation and wreaking havoc on cells. This oxidative stress is directly linked to a range of diseases, including heart disease, diabetes, and arthritis. Moreover, fast food is notorious for its use of repeatedly reheated oils, which intensifies the risk of chronic diseases. Then there's the sugar-laden buns and sauces that accompany that burger and fries, adding another layer of risk. A friend of Candy's tried to steer him away from fried foods, and while he did have periods of time eating healthy, ultimately he struggled to stay on track, and the damage accumulated over years. Now, we all know that fast food isn't great for us, but there was one major concern in John Candy's regular diet that many of us can relate to: pancakes, pasta, and pierogies. John Candy loved his refined carbohydrates. His favorite food was reportedly Ukrainian pierogies, dumplings made from dough and stuffed with potatoes, cheese, and meat. He was also famed for his love of pancakes and pasta. The issue with these foods is that they're made from refined carbohydrates, rapidly spiking blood sugar levels. Just like consuming too much sugary chocolate, processed grains lead to glycation, damaging arteries. Furthermore, heavily refined grains contribute to leaky gut syndrome, damaging the walls of our intestines and allowing substances that should be contained within the gut to enter the bloodstream. Research suggests that modern wheat may exacerbate this increased permeability, with some people being more susceptible than others, leading not only to inflammation, but also an imbalance in gut flora, and a host of related issues. Furthermore, refined carbs increase hunger and cravings, which can easily lead to overeating and subsequent weight gain. Stack on top of that John's habit for late-night binge eating, and it's a recipe for disaster. It's not only about what you eat, but also when you eat. Consuming large quantities of food at night disrupts natural metabolic processes tied to our circadian rhythm. Our digestive system is synchronized with daylight, being more efficient during the day and slowing down at night to prepare for rest. As we've seen in studies of intermittent fasting, it's vitally important to give your body time to rest, digest, and repair, with research showing benefits across various markers of heart health, simply due to not eating late at night. Moreover, The psychological effects of binge eating as a coping mechanism can further exacerbate the negative impact. Essentially, what you eat, how much you eat, and when you eat it all impact your heart. Unfortunately, John, along with millions of people each year, paid the ultimate price. A common result of these habits is weight gain, particularly the accumulation of harmful visceral fat. Unlike subcutaneous fat that lies just beneath the skin, visceral fat wraps around vital organs deep within the abdomen. This type of fat is especially harmful because it produces hormones and substances that can lead to chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and other metabolic disturbances. It can directly impact the metabolism of blood lipids in the liver, and secretes chemicals which can trigger systemic inflammation, leaving us vulnerable to sudden cardiac events like heart attack or stroke. For individuals who are overweight or obese, losing weight is perhaps the single most effective step they can take to reduce their risk of heart disease. Finally, John Candy did have a family history of heart disease. Genetics are an unchangeable risk factor. However, the script of our lives is not written solely by genetics. We wield control over all the rest. Every cigarette not smoked, every healthy meal chosen, each step towards regular exercise, and every moment of stress we mitigate. For more on that, you might like to watch our video on the top 7 foods to clean arteries and prevent heart attacks. We'll leave a link in the description. We hope you found this video useful. Click the like and subscribe button for more heart disease prevention videos as we release them.